Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another edition of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. First things first, guys, you know what to do. Make sure you hit the likes, make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already, and leave your thoughts in the comments below whether you agree or disagree with anything discussed in today's episode. And things are moving along. We're edging ever closer to the start of the new season now. Chelsea's first pre-season game has taken place, a resounding 5-0 win against Wrexham. Some impressive performances from some of the new signings, some of the youngsters we've not seen an awful lot of. So definitely some positives to build on. Transfer market, Aubameyang's now gone out the door as well, officially done to Marseille. We're making good progress with those outgoings. Incomings is a little bit slower. Getting a little bit frustrated now, sort of coming towards the end of July. Still only one main incoming for the first team in Nicholas Jackson. So we're going to get stuck into that. We're going to dive into a load of things. And Alex, great to have you on the show, mate. What are you saying? You good?
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. I didn't think I'd be on the podcast this early, but better early than never. And I'm sure I'll be on again at some point. But it's been interesting, hasn't it, Charlie? I mean, I don't know if you're as optimistic as I am. Obviously, we've spoken like briefly before, but I guess we'll get into it a little bit. But I'm not worried. I'm not worried. I think that we have been careful with the way we've done business, especially the players we're bringing in. Obviously, Jackson's the only one at the moment. It looks like we're probably going to get Caicedo as well, but we're taking our time with that. But generally, I think we've approached the market well. The priority has been getting rid of players who don't want to be here. I think that should be the priority. And look, maybe we're going to have a little bit, lack of depth and quality, and we've got a very young squad. I think it's the youngest in the Prem, but
Yep.
at the end of the day, that's the first thing you want, right? Is a hungry team who actually want to play for your club. And we're really getting to the stage where pretty much everyone, barring obviously Lukaku, Hudson-Odoi, maybe a couple of others, we just need to get them out the door, and then we'll have a hungry, fresh team that's ready to play for Poch.
Yeah, no, for sure. I hear you on that. I've always looked at the transfer window and I've looked at it in two sections. Like June for me was always about getting rid of as many players as possible. We've done a superb job in that. The clear out's been long overdue. We all know that. Realistically, now, as you say, all we need to really get rid of is Lukaku, Ziyech, Hudson-Odoi, and maybe Malang Sarr as well. But we know that Lukaku's not going to play for the club again, so it just depends where he goes. Ziyech, hopefully we can find another suitor in Saudi Arabia. Doesn't really seem too much of a European market for him. And then Hudson-Odoi and Malang Sarr, we should be able to get rid of them. So that the club have done a superb job on that side of things. A well overdue clear out. Players that don't want to be here, gone. Players that aren't good enough, gone. And it's really refreshing to have an approach to have a pre-season where we've got a squad of players for the first time in God knows how long, where every single player actually wants to be here and actually wants to play for the club. That makes such a big difference. So that for me is a massive plus. The owners need applauding for that, whether that's the right word or not, but they need,
Well, they do.
they absolutely do. I mean, mate, just on that, I know it's a little bit old news, but like, how surprised are you that we managed to get rid of all these players so quickly? Obviously, the Saudi market's helped us out a little bit, but it's helping everyone out. But
100%, but they could have bought anyone, right? They chose to buy our players, and we just had a lot of them, right? So, no, I think we've done fantastic business, and people still criticizing our board. I see people complaining on Twitter that we're not being serious in the transfer market. It's like, if we weren't serious, we would have kept these players, and we wouldn't have wanted to reinvest in new, younger players. And by the way, we are taking risks, even if we're spending £30 million or 35 million on Nicholas Jackson. It's still a risk. There's expensive risks and there's cheaper risks. But at the end of the day, they're either going to play well or they're going to flop. So, I've never heard of Jackson. A lot of the players that we'd signed, I've never heard of. I didn't know who Santos was when we signed him. I know we've got a couple of others. I don't even remember everyone's names. We had a number of debutants against Wrexham. But at the end of the day, it's energetic. It looks good, but at the same time, you don't want to overhype it in terms of the players themselves. But I will overhype the owners because they deserve the credit this summer and last summer, if you really want to look at it, because what they did is they made all the mistakes in their first season, and you're allowed to do that. You're supposed to do that. And now they're rectifying all the mistakes and basically just filling in the cracks, right? So what we're doing is we're starting the base for what could be a really, really top Chelsea side. Obviously, in future windows, you look at January, I'd be very surprised if we didn't need another player. Obviously, we had Fernandes, Badiashile, Mudryk last year. I don't think it's going to be one of those January windows, but there's always going to be something that's going to come about. Maybe there'll be a new striker on the market or something like that. So, being patient with those type of players isn't a bad thing, because players pop up, situations change, and opportunities arise. But what we are doing is we're doing what Poch wants, and we're building a team that wants to play for him. And look, at the end of the day, if Poch is telling them to do stuff and they're doing it, great, good advice from Poch. But they're the ones doing it. Bowley's the one who's, giving the nod for all of these decisions, and he's also the one who's putting Paul with Stanley and what's his name, other name, Joe Shield as well. He's the one that's put these guys in charge of this, and they're doing it. So I can understand why fans dislike the owners. I'm not saying that they're perfect. They've been far from perfect. But what they have been is ambitious. And, when you're a club like Chelsea, you don't want anything less than ambition. Just because you're not buying ready-made players doesn't mean you're not ambitious. Tottenham aren't ambitious. That's not being ambitious. That's staying the same level or even going lower down. The only reason they bought a goalkeeper is because Lloris is going.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that with us. Kepa's not playing great. We want to get rid of the guy, but there's nobody else on the market. And I'm sure when there is, we'll do everything we can to try and improve on that.
Yeah,
Probably would have been nice to get Onana, but
yeah, would have been nice. I don't think we'll ever know why we pulled out of that. I mean, we saying that we couldn't afford him, but you look at a 47 million euros deal, about 43, 44 million pounds. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that maybe we tried for the deal. He only wanted Man United, so we just walked away to save ourselves getting rejected potentially. Because I can't see any other viable reasons why we'd walk away from that deal. But no, I hear what you're saying. But now that we're getting towards the end of July, I'm happy with the business we've done so far. The outgoing's great, as we touched on. Incomings that I think obviously we've added in Nkunku to the squad. That signing was done before this summer. Colwell's come back into the squad. We've now got Andre Santos, Caicedo in the squad. Yeah, this is good. But I be honest, I'm starting to get a little bit not worried, but I guess frustrated, and can see us potentially falling behind our rivals a little bit if we're not getting our main targets in, like for pre-season. Now, like for example, Caicedo, everyone knows he's our number one target. You look at other teams, right? Like Arsenal, main business all done. Havertz, Rice, and Urian Timber all in, all here from day one of pre-season. That is so important. Right now, yes, Jackson's here for day one. Yes, Nkunku's here for day one. But our main signings, right, hopefully a Moises Caicedo, which we'll get onto, he's not going to be here for day one. He might not even be here for any of the pre-season tour. It's really, really important. I'm not saying that you have to get all your business done before pre-season, because it doesn't always work like that. But you want your main signings in. You want them in for a pre-season, meeting the new teammates, gelling, learning the style of play. You don't want to be bringing players in after pre-season, particularly main signings, or when the season started, because you're starting on the back foot already. Man United, main signings in, like, before pre-season or the start. Anana's in, missed a couple of games. Mount in from the start. I don't know who else they're going to bring in, but getting main signings in before pre-season starts. I just feel a little bit that, and I'm not saying it's all our fault because negotiations are difficult, but I almost feel like we are maybe just a little bit starting to fall behind our rivals because haven't got our main signings in, and we're missing out on bedding them in, and we're missing out on getting the minutes in our team. These guys are going to be doing a pre-season with another team, focusing on playing with a different way, playing with different players. And every day that Caicedo is still at Brighton is another day wasted for us, where he could be learning with us. I mean, do you agree with any of that? Do you share any of those similar thoughts, or do you think I'm being a little bit negative there?
Well, I think that's a bit harsh. Just because if you look at each team, Arsenal, I think they've always got their business done early. They've always been quite good over the past sort of 2-3 seasons. They've had some decent windows. So I think that's just the way they do business as a club. They don't typically overspend. They like to sign the right players, but they didn't pay a cheap amount for Havertz. Timber seems like they got a good deal for him, but I'd never heard of him myself. And then Rice, they paid over 100 million. So it's not like, they paid a lot of money and they got a good deal. They paid top bucks for these players. And obviously we could do that with Caicedo. We could do that straight away, and I'm sure we get him. But what we need to do is try and change the perception of the way other clubs are looking at us in the transfer market, because what we've done is we've basically added like a Chelsea tax. So whenever we go into negotiations with anyone, they go, well, hang on a second. You spent over 100 million on Mudryk. You spent over 100 million on Fernandes. You spent X amount on all of these players. You didn't seem to care that much then. Why are you not willing to pay the money now? You clearly don't want this player. So we need to get more money from you if you really want this player. So we're being held to ransom. And Brighton have played us so well. They have played us. They've toyed with us in the transfer market, and fantastic business from them. I'm not going to sit here and shit on Brighton. I think they've got a fantastic way of doing business.
I think they're well within their rights as well, sorry, mate, to be asking for £100 million, because you look at the going rate now for top midfield players, and there's not many of them, but we started it, Enzo Fernandez, over 100 million. West Ham, Declan Rice, over 100 million. Brighton, as much as it might annoy us and we might not like it, they are well within their rights to ask for £100 million for Moises Caicedo, because he is a top-level midfield player. And do you know what? Sometimes I appreciate that clubs are going to have a valuation for a player, and if they're asking for more than an evaluation, then you walk away and you go and look at something else. You saw it with City. City wanted Cucurella, weren't prepared to go above a certain price. Brighton wanted more than they were prepared to pay. They walked away. They've done it. They've done it with Declan Rice. They put a bid in. They've done it with Alexis Sanchez in the past. They've done it with Fred. They've done it with Harry Maguire. They'll set a price for a player, and if the price is more than they're prepared to pay, they will walk away and go on to someone else. But there are times come along where you've got, in my opinion, certain players are on the market, certain players you're looking for, where actually you do have to break the bank. You do have to pay more than you're prepared to pay, because that player is going to make such a big difference to your team. This is a transformative signing in Moises Caicedo. Now, I appreciate that we probably don't want to spend £100 million, but actually sometimes you have to break the bank for certain players to get them in. And I'm not saying pay whatever it takes, but if it's pay 100 million or don't get him, just pay 100 million, because this guy.
You think Caicedo's worth 100 mil?
Look, is anyone worth 100 million unless your name's Erling Haaland or Kylian Mbappe? Probably not. But it's the way that the market is at this point in time, and 100 million is the market rate for a top draw midfield player at this point in time. So look,
my argument is this, Charlie. Right? So let's take Fernandes out of the equation.
Yeah.
Let's just compare Rice and Caicedo, because they're very, very similar. And I know Fernandes is kind of but he's more of a creative midfielder. I think we can agree with that, rather than a defensive mid. So, number one, probably the most important thing is that Rice has more proven Premier League experience, right? He's been in the Prem for 5 years, man. And Caicedo joined Brighton in 2021. So, he's been there a couple of years, but Rice just has the extra pedigree. He's experienced at playing at the highest level consistently, carrying that West Ham team, whether it be a centre back or CDM, constantly being the focal point for where the team can be built around him, and they absolutely have done that, and that's why they were able to bring a European trophy to the London Stadium. But Caicedo, he's levels below. He is. I'm not saying he's worst player. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you look at it on paper, Rice has done more, therefore he's worth more. And actually, I would argue that Rice is better in the sense that he can actually score you goals. Caicedo's not that type of player. I know he's great box to box, knows how to run, really top interceptor. But I generally could understand why they wouldn't want to pay more than like 90 million. Because if I was paying, I wouldn't want to pay more than 90 million. You're taking the piss asking for that much. I know you're trying to do the best thing for your club. Okay, fine. I don't see any issues negotiating for another week or two, another couple of weeks. As long as we get the deal over the line, it is what it is. We talk about deadline signings we've made in the past, Danny Drinkwater, all these players, they were crap. We know that if we did sign Caicedo on deadline day and we got a better deal, it's still a good deal. Could we?
The longer you leave it, though, because
Sorry?
but the longer you leave it though, Brighton are going to want time to bring a replacement in, so that they wouldn't sanction a deadline day sale because there's no time to bring any replacement for him in. Now, I just think like with certain players, like if we're desperate for Caicedo. Like if we walk away from the Caicedo deal, I'm not saying we will, but if we walk away, we are desperate for a top class midfield player to play alongside Enzo Fernandez. We missed out on Declan Rice. You walk away from this Caicedo deal, and we're fucked because who do you play alongside Enzo Fernandez then? Like you look at the market, and the market's not great. You're looking at like players like Romeo Lavia, Kefren Turam, Manu Kone, guys that are a level down, good players but a level down. We need a transformative signing in midfield. We have to get this guy. This is what I'm saying. Like we have to get him.
Act like I'm saying don't get him.
That's no, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we need him, right? And I completely agree. He's a transformative signing. My point is that we need to make a stand in the transfer market, and I think it's perfectly respectable to negotiate with these guys. And you know what? Even if Brighton do get their own way, we've fought tooth and nail to get the best deal possible, and they didn't take us for fools. We didn't just spunk 100 million within a week just to sign this player on a 9-year contract. It's fine. Like as I said, I'm not going to complain, but I think that the other thing, my second point is what it's going to do is if you are paying 100 mil, it's going to inflate other transfers. You know, players like Nicholas Jackson. If this was another team paying the money, could they have got 25 mil when we paid 35?
Well, because it was a release clause for him. So
was it a release clause?
Yeah, it was a release clause. Yeah.
But my point is, with other players of that level who would be worth around the same amount, clubs are just going to ask for that little bit more, right? Even if it's an extra 5 million, you add that over 10 transfers, it's a lot of money. It's 50 million. So I'm looking into it a little bit deeper. Maybe I'm overthinking, but I just think that we need to get to the stage of accepting that, look, we are going to spend big money on players, but it's not what it was. And the reason we spent so much money at the beginning is so we don't have to spend as much later on.
Well, and the chronic lack of investment in the squad in the last few years on the Roman as well. That's why we had to go and buy all those players in January.
Yeah. Well, we talk about a lack of investment. It was just misplaced.
Or shit investment as well.
Players for a lot of money, but they were crap. You know.
Yeah, it was shit investment. No plan. I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
100%. So at least we know we've got a real project to get behind. And if Liverpool can do it without spending any money, we've spent money. I do think it will work well because we're trying to gel together lots of different factors, aren't we? With the feeder club in Strasbourg, and I'm sure a couple others. So yeah, I don't see a big issue with that. I would just say to Chelsea fans, just relax. But at the same time, don't get me wrong. Of course, we need to sign players. But
we need. Yeah. I mean, I guess the Caicedo thing, we just got to be patient. Like, it's frustrating, it's annoying, it's been going on for weeks. But I guess ultimately, as long as we get our man, that is the most important thing. Yes, you want him in sooner than later so we can do the preseason, so we can obviously have more time to adapt and all that sort of thing. But ultimately, as long as we get him, that is the most important thing. And if it takes 100 million, just put the money on the table and let's do it. And let's just move on from this saga because it is dragging on. It is taking a while. But let's move away from the Caicedo side. Let's move on to more positive things. And, mate, you stayed up in the early hours UK time to watch the Wrexham game. I wasn't as hardcore. I watched the extended highlights in the morning. Positives, 5-0 win. Yes, it's a League Two opposition. But more important for me is that if we went into that game last preseason, that team doesn't win 5-0. So I think this is a step in the right direction. Some positive debuts in Kunku getting off the mark. Jackson looking good with 2 assists. Maatson 2 goals. Caicedo, Andre Santos impressing. And Angelo Gabriel as well, the new signing from Santos with a great assist for Ben Chilwell at the end as well. Mate, what were your overriding thoughts of that game? Like, a positive start for sure. You can only play what's in front of you. And it looks really good. We looked fit as well, which is a big change to last season.
Oh man, how good does it feel to see our team running? Like,
five goals, a clean sheet, a win. What's that? Don't know what that is.
It's weird. I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, don't get carried away, but at the same time, appreciate what you're seeing, people, because this could be the beginning of something special. You know, you just don't know, do you? So, no, plenty of positives. Even Is it Hutchinson? Hutchinson?
No,
Not
he's
Amari
gone on.
Hutchinson.
He's gone on loan to
Who was
Ipswich.
the centre back? The young
Sheer
centre back.
Humphreys.
Humphreys. Even he was solid. So
He looked good.
and we haven't even mentioned him. Like we've got a lot of young talent who I'm telling you could get into the starting lineup or even the squad in the Premier League. Caicedo, for me, keep him in the squad.
You watched him you watched him at Reading last because you watched a lot of Reading. What was he like at Reading last season on loan?
Do you know the thing is? It's obviously a bit different at Championship level.
Yeah.
But one thing he does is he gets stuck in and he gets himself in the right positions. So actually, at Reading, if I'm being honest with you, I mean, people paint him out to be this huge goal scorer. I think it was in the under-21 Euros
On the
or
20 World Cup, he was top scorer.
World Cup. Yeah, he was scoring goals for fun, but it wasn't quite like that at Reading. But you know what he did do is he made a huge presence. He was a big presence, and he was getting stuck in. And that's all you want from young players because that's how you're going to develop. He scored a couple, but I think he'll do very well in this Chelsea side. And even if it's not scoring goals, we've seen he can create. He it was a great assist for Nkunku. Off of his left foot as well, I want to say, and I highlight this because Mount, you just never saw him do that. So I'm not saying he's a direct replacement for Mount, but I am saying that he's able to pick passes that maybe Mount wouldn't do and give us a different dimension, a different way of being able to play, knowing that you can, hit those passes with your right and left foot. But he's quality. He's a big boy as well, wins challenges, 50-50s. Yeah. And I think that he linked up really well with Santos as well, who I don't think he's quite ready for, starting at Chelsea. I think he alone would benefit him. But again, if he was given minutes, I don't think it's a terrible thing. But like, what's more beneficial for him, training with us or getting game time elsewhere? So, I mean, a loan's probably a good option for him. Obviously, we had the new right back as well. What's his name?
Gusto.
I thought
he looked good.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it would be interesting to see him getting challenged against a higher level of opponent.
I think that's the same for a lot of these guys, isn't it? Like, exciting to see them against Wrexham do well, but the big test is, can they do it against the better teams? Obviously, rest of the campaign, we've got Brighton, we've got Newcastle, we've got Fulham, and we've got Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, I mean, Wrexham created a few chances, man, and they had some decent crosses at times. I'm surprised they didn't score. I really thought they could have. And I wouldn't have been angry if they scored. I actually think that for a League Two side who just came from non-league, like, they're a good team. They're a decent side team for the level they play. So it'd be interesting to see how they get on. But look, I mean, I think the fitness levels was one of the defining factors. I think we were a lot fitter than them, but obviously the quality as well and the tactics. Ben Foster was talking about it in the interview afterwards. The overlapping runs, it's absolute carnage to play against. So hopefully we can make it like that for the bigger teams as well. But yeah, even Jackson, man, didn't even touch on Jackson.
Mate, he Mate, I tell you what, his pace is lightning. Like,
yeah, but I don't think that should be like a big thing because Timo had a lot of pace. It's like, can you put the ball?
Hold up play was good. Link up play was good.
Yeah, that's true.
A couple of decent assists. He looks promising, but again, it's important not to get too carried away. But I mean, mate, what else impressed you? I mean, the first half was better than the second half. There's a slight formation change in the second half. We weren't as effective as we were in the first half. Obviously, a flurry of goals in the last few minutes. But I mean, for someone like Nkunku, how important was it for him to get off the mark as quickly as possible?
No, he didn't do much. And then the one chance
the ball in the net, though, that's it.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what you want, isn't it?
The question is, would Havertz do that? No.
So Havertz would fall over rounding the goalkeeper.
Yeah, he would, mate. Mate, we've got a baller. He had confidence. He didn't even think about it. Didn't need to look. And it wasn't a tap, mate. He fucking smashed it into the back of the net. This guy, I think we can really say that we've got a gem on our hands. Being managed the right way, in the right position, given the freedom to do what he needs to do, this guy can work really well. But I'd be interested to see if they play him up front or maybe alongside Jackson. That would be interesting because I know he's a number 10 typically, but he can play as a striker as well.
Said after the game he's happy playing as a striker. But I mean, look, he's one of them versatile ones. Ideally, as a 10 is his best position. But I hope against Brighton that we see Jackson as a 9 and Kunku as a 10 and see what that link-up's like. Because I think moving forwards to the start of the season, certainly the first couple of games, I think that is going to be our starting attacking options, as in Jackson as a 9 with Kunku playing off him as the 10. So the more we can see that in the pre-season, I think the better. Mate, Ian Maatson, he impressed as well. 2 goals, playing higher up the pitch as well. Normally is a left back, left wing back. Was very good on loan at Burnley last season. Very good the season before at Coventry. Decent in the attacking third. Now playing higher up the pitch than he normally would. 2 goals took him really well. Again, it is only Wrexham, but it's his second appearance for Chelsea. 21 years of age, a lot of talent there. Only problem is, where does he get minutes in this team?
He can get minutes.
Where though? Because he's not going to play ahead of Chilwell or Cucurella. And
you say that, but you know Chilwell's injury prone. We know that, and Cucurella, he can't do all of the games on his own. He needs to rotate with someone. But nobody's pinned down that left back spot. Obviously, you've got Lewis Hall in there as well, but he can play in the midfield. Maatson can play on the wing.
He probably goes on loan, Lewis Hall.
I mean, my point being that I think Maatson's good enough. I do think he's good enough.
He's good enough. I just don't know. Is he better than Ben Chilwell and Mark Cucurella? And you have to say no.
Well, actually, based on last season, you'd say he's better than Cucurella.
But overall, he's not better than Cucurella.
What does Cucurella have to show based on what he's done in Chelsea? He's better than...
No, but I mean, as an overall package, though, look at Cucurella, 24 years of age. I think he's 24, might be 25. But look, he's a player of the year at Brighton. Man City wanted him. He's a good. Yes, he was poor last season for Chelsea.
I agree.
But I think we're getting a little bit carried away. I've done it a little bit myself as well, where we're suddenly saying that someone that's not played a single minute of Premier League football is better than Cucurella. That's where I look. I think Maatson's very good. He's a talented boy. But what I'm saying is, right now, is he actually? I can't sit here and say that he's better than Cucurella right now. Has he got potential to be better than Cucurella? Absolutely, he's got potential to be better than him. But I just think right now, when you look at it, he doesn't get in ahead of Chilwell. Chilwell's going to be first choice. And I think Cucurella deserves another chance this season. I think he'll be better this season. But you look at Maatson, and I think, right, yes, Chilwell could be injury prone. Cucurella could pick up an injury as well. Then there's an option for him to be a backup at left back or get some minutes, maybe in a League Cup. Or he could play further forward as a rotational winger, because we could maybe do with one more of those. But are either of those options best served for his development as a player? And I would argue potentially not. There's rumours of Burnley wanting him on loan again, Forest wanting to bid £15 million for him. I don't think we should sell him, but I think that a loan move to Burnley, another season, get a season of Premier League football under your belt, that's going to be much better for his development. Because remember, this guy's not played a single minute of Premier League football.
I still think that he could fit into the Chelsea team.
I
think he'd rotate. I'm not saying he start every week, but I do think he's good enough to compete with Chilwell and Cucurella, just as Lewis Hall was last season. And I do think that he can play on the wing as well. I mean, he scored 2 bloody goals. So I think we just missed players that could score. That, for me, was like, oh, my days. As I said, we know it's Wrexham. Let's see if you can do it again. Same with Santos. If you're going to do this consistently in pre-season, then we can definitely have a conversation about it. But I'm not just saying what I'm saying about how good I think Maatson is based on what I've seen against Wrexham. I watched him live when he played for Coventry, and I saw him when he played for Burnley many times. The thing about Maatson is that he fits into so many systems. Coventry were never an attacking team in the Championship. They used to sit deep and counter. And he still managed to bang in goals for them and get assists. And then you go to a free-flowing passing Burnley side, good manager with company, dominating the ball, and he was one of their best players again. I've seen no reason why he can't progress again. I actually think it would be harder for him to play for a lower league side like Burnley in the Prem than being in a team like Chelsea, where at least you can understand the philosophy that Poch is bringing and add to your game training with better players. I think that's absolutely fine. It's similar with Loftus-Cheek at times, He went to Palace, didn't really work out. I actually think he had a better career at Chelsea staying here. than going on loan to some of the smaller clubs, because some players are just better at times where they don't have all the game time. But I'm not saying that Maatson's going to be like Loftus-Cheek, because Loftus-Cheek never really broke through. I think there is actually a progression there, but it does depend on Chilwell and Cucurella, and obviously Lewis Hall as well. We've got so many options, but I don't think you can have too many options with players that are versatile.
No,
And
I do agree on that, but
do that.
playing once a week, do you need that many options? That's my only thing. Obviously, you've got to look at it maybe a bit more long term, but it's certainly interesting. I think Maatson is great, but yeah, obviously time will tell. If he continues to impress in the remaining preseason games, and absolutely he's putting himself bang in the window for a shout. But I don't think we can be making these claims personally, in my opinion, just based off this Wrexham game. Of course, you can go off what he did at Burnley, Coventry, etc. But yeah, let's wait and see. I mean, mate, just to round out the Wrexham game, what else impressed you? What were you, not necessarily individual performances or whatever, but what did you like the look of the most? Because it's the first time we've actually played under Pochettino. Obviously, we touched on the fitness. We look good. Patterns of play look good. Players looking sharp. And for me, I think I might have touched on it at the beginning of the show. It's so great for the first time in God knows how long, a group of players, not just the starting team, but the whole squad that are out of the States at the moment. Everyone wants to be here. That is the. I mean, when was the last time we had that?
100%. I like the way, just to touch on your previous question, I love the way we move the ball around really quickly. That was refreshing. Oh my God, we never saw that last season. So that was just weird seeing that. But yeah, seeing players that want to be here, a coach that knows what he's doing, and owners that want to be involved as well. Let's not forget, guys, that like Barley's sitting watching the training sessions. These guys have other teams, other businesses. They've handed over the management for the majority to people with footballing knowledge, and they still want to be involved. So when we talk about the players, it's not just the players; it is the ownership as well. And I think that we do have to try and appreciate that, even though they were a little bit too hands-on last season. Yeah, the approach is positive. I don't really know what else to say. You can't take too much from what we saw against Wrexham, but you have to give the credit for what we did see. And I haven't seen very bad things since I've started watching this season. So why would I say bad things? So as far as I'm concerned, even though I do think Maatson's still got a place in the squad, I do think he can get minutes in the Prem. I think Cucurella will have a better season. I think a lot of these players who underperformed are going to have a better season. Players like Sterling. Sterling's one that interests me because I don't see how he fits into like a Poch system, because he doesn't offer much except goals when you play with a good team. I mean, even under Pep, he didn't offer much. He scored a lot of goals. He scored some big goals, but generally speaking, he's not the player who's going to carry the team unless the team's flowing already. And we're getting to a stage where the team is playing better football and obviously playing with more energy, but I don't know if he has the support around him to actually be able to carry this Chelsea side. Obviously, he has the experience, but yeah, I'm not really sure about Sterling. He's probably one of the few players that I'm looking at and I'm thinking, like, where are you going to play and how are you going to play? Especially with players like Nkunku coming in, like he's going to be the guy who's driving our attack forward, not Sterling. I don't know what you think about that, but that's probably the only player that I'm kind of unsure about.
Yeah, look, it's a big season for Sterling. As we said, we're disappointed with what we saw from him last season. When you say things like I've come in to be the main man, and you put in side man performances, you're on big money. Like, you've got to do better than that. And it wasn't just him, but when you say these things, when you're on the big money at the club, like, you've got to do better than that. And I know the team was underperforming, and it's hard to perform when everyone else is shit, but you've got to do better. Yes, he was joint top scorer with Havertz and someone else, I think, on 9 goals in all comps. But we need more. Considering what he's done elsewhere, you do expect a lot. Excuse me, you do expect a lot more. So yeah, obviously we're all disappointed with him, but we know there's a quality player there in Raheem Sterling. Just, can Pochettino unlock that? Is the system going to work? How many chances are he going to get next season? Is Madueke going to play ahead of him? Will Mudryk play ahead of him, etc., and whatnot? But look, he absolutely deserves another chance. But if he has another poor season, then for sure we need to we need to look at getting rid of him. I would say.
So, mate, the only I saw I had a couple of people in one of my WhatsApp groups saying that there's some interest from Saudi. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I don't know if you've heard anything about that. When you look at it,
Yeah, maybe
they're the only people that can afford his wages.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not
no
saying
one's paying those wages.
Out, and the foreign clubs in Italy and Spain, they can't afford those wages. So even if he was to underperform, I think it's not going to be easy to get rid of him. His family's in London as well, mate. He's got everything.
No, yeah, it's true. It's true.
I don't know, man.
It's a tricky one. Like I think a lot of players have got to step up and improve. But look, I think from the early signs, you know, the bad characters per se have been moved on. And you know, the camp seems happy. We're doing well. They're training hard. They look fit. Pochettino seems like a great fit for the club. Every time he speaks, you know, it kind of get excited. You know, he gets what it means to be the manager of Chelsea. And you know, I don't know if it's just me, mate. I know it's only been like one game, but already just the feel around the place, the feel around the squad, around the club, the feeling amongst the fan base, like it feels so much more positive than it did at any point at all last season.
Yeah, well, I think we were so happy with Tuchel, and then when he got sacked, it was kind of like, well, you know, we're still going to support Potter, but we never really processed it until things started to go really badly with Graham. I don't. Well, we're definitely not going to finish 12th this season. Again, I think we'll finish in the Champions League. When you've got no congestion with the European fixtures, it just seems like a no-brainer to me. Newcastle, Arsenal, you know, I think they'll struggle. I think Man United will actually be okay because I think Ten Hag's that good. I think he's really good. I don't think people talk enough about how good Ten Hag is. Everyone hypes up Arteta. I think Ten Hag's
miles better.
Oh, I think he's unbelievable, mate. When you're able to manage a squad like that, you know, obviously, don't get me wrong, there's some great players in there, but even still, I mean, we spoke earlier about other clubs taking step forwards and we're taking step backwards in terms of not signing players. Our priorities are just different, weren't they? So we had to get players, other teams didn't have that issue. So even if we weren't to sign many others, I think Poch has still got a good group, a group that he can build with. I'm not really sure where this group would finish because I do think we're just one or two players away from where we need to be this season. If we don't sign anyone, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a bit like
we're in trouble. Yeah, we didn't. If no one else comes in, we struggle to finish top 7, top 8.
I don't know. Also, injuries is obviously a factor.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't even spoken about Chukwuemeka too much either. I do think that he's going to shine if he's given the opportunity. He was good under Potter. And I mean, if you can perform under Potter, then Poch, man, like this is a real manager. So hopefully he can develop a top player. But there's so many factors that we listen, Charlie. We can sit here all day, and I know it's a podcast, and you know we talk about a lot of different subjects, but at the end of the day, we need to watch these players play, and we need to see who's going to give them the chance to play. Until then, like all we can do is give our opinion, really.
No,
and there's not much else that we can touch on, you know.
No, bro, I hear it, but I mean, you touched on injuries. We haven't mentioned it yet. Wesley Fofana out for what is probably going to be, well, not confirmed as the season, but more than likely is going to be the best part of all of next season. Now, that leaves us with 4 centre-backs. It leaves us with Levi Colwill, Thiago Silva, Badia Shule, and Trevor Chalobah. Now, I've always maintained that we need 5 centre-backs because in a back 4, yes, there's not going to be that much rotation, but if we get an injury or two, then you just suddenly find yourself short if you've only got 4. So I do think you need 5. Again, don't get me wrong, Bashir Humphries, if he continues to impress in pre-season, he could easily be that 5th option. And he probably wouldn't play that much. He could be that 5th option. But do you think, firstly on Fofana, I feel gutted for him because this is a kid that is 22 years of age, came in for big money last summer. When he's played for us, he's looked really, really good. But he's had a number of injuries already. You know, the knee injury last season, obviously broke his leg at Leicester. That wasn't his fault, obviously. ACL injury seemingly picked up in training. We haven't actually had any, I don't think there's been any reports or news on how it actually happened, but it's obviously happened in training, which is kind of, I don't know if that's unusual or not. But just a word on that injury for him, because it's another massive setback, not just for him personally, but for the club as well, because a centre-back wasn't on the list of priorities at all, and now maybe it is.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm gutted for him, but I think that people need to try and understand his situation rather than just making their judgments. At the end of the day, he doesn't want to be injured. He doesn't. It's not really in his control if his body gives up on him. There are players out there that have had those struggles, and he just happens to be one of them. We knew the risks when we signed him, and we took the risk. And for the minutes he has played, he played very well, man.
It's been really good.
We've had a top player on our hands who's able to play alongside Thiago Silva and not look, too out of shape. He's got great distribution. Really, really impressed with the way he's able to win headers, and second balls. And he puts his body on the line as well, which with the modern day centre back is quite difficult to find. He's got a good combination. He is the closest thing to Rudiger for what we have right now. It's just a shame that we don't see more of him. He's got a great physical presence and maybe even a good character in the dressing room if he was fit more so than not. I mean, let's not forget as well, he did give the channel a shout out. Were you with me, Charlie, or was it someone else who was with me when he gave us a shout out? Just downstairs by the east reception. Were you sitting with me for the?
Oh no, yeah, it was me and you, mate. Yeah, it
yeah,
was.
you were the one who filmed it.
It was the City game. Yeah,
yeah, man.
yeah, City at home. Yeah,
he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
Nice guy.
Not everyone does that. I mean, Ruben.
Oh, bro, that was the one, right, where I went to get a picture with him, right? And on the iPhone, when you click the selfie, right, you got the two buttons one side, and then obviously the lock buttons on the other side.
Yeah,
mate, I pressed the fucking lock button, and it obviously locks the phone. I like to be like, bro, can we just do this again? And he was fine with it, but mate, I felt like just fucking idiot.
Good, man. He took a picture with me and gave us a shout out as well, and took one with you. So this is a solid guy, man. He's a solid guy, and he's very committed to Chelsea. He signed a long deal. So really, how can you criticize a guy other than saying maybe just take it a little bit easier so that you don't get injured all the time? But these players are taking advices from physios as well. I'm recovering from an MCL injury myself, and I'm only just starting to get back to full fitness after a couple of months. So I know full well that you have to take the advice of the experts, and sometimes the experts get it wrong. So there could be an element of that being, pushed into doing certain things that maybe his body wasn't ready to do. I mean, there's lots of options, right? There's lots of things.
Yeah.
Also, you just want to look at the fans who are going out and criticizing him. I just question that and say, what makes you think that that's the right thing to do, and how do you expect to get a positive response from a player when he's receiving abuse, not for bad performances, but for being injured? I mean, that baffles me.
Yeah, it's a strange one, but it begs a bigger question. And sorry, mate, just a quick one. Just having a quick look on Twitter. I mean, this is only one report saying this, but it's quite a good source. Apparently, Chelsea's technical director, Christopher Vivell, has left the club, currently understood to be serving his gardening leave period. He only joined in December. So, I mean, that's interesting. I know that obviously he was one of the sporting directors, not necessarily one of the. Well, I mean, I guess he was quite senior. I know that Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart are doing most of the deals and stuff. But I mean, if that is true, I'll try and wait and see if a bit more stuff comes in. But I mean, does that surprise you? Goes to show that maybe because to have only have come in December and then be going in July, maybe he's got maybe a better opportunity to come. But I mean, I doubt it. Do you think there's been a falling out there or something? I mean, are you surprised by that at all?
That's weird, man. That's weird. Oh, you've caught me off guard there, Charlie. Have they said anything else about it?
No, bro. It's just saying that he's left.
Right. And was this a mutual agreement or mutual decision?
Mate, nothing more than that. It's just an exclusive from this guy saying understands that Vivell is left Chelsea.
Well, that's weird. Well, he was one of the key figures that we tried to bring in from the get-go. So obviously there's been some sort of issue. I doubt that there's been a fallout. I don't think at that level that happens too much. It's usually, isn't it? It's like we work a certain way and he maybe wants to work a different way, and we're not allowing him to do that, which potentially was not what he was expecting when he took the role. So that could be an element. Maybe it's.
I mean, there's a few things saying that we didn't listen to any of his suggestions in January and didn't sign players he was recommending. That could maybe be part of it. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's not ideal, but is it the end of the world? I'm not really sure. I mean, until more stuff comes out, it is difficult to say. But I mean, let's get back to the centre backs thing. Do you think we need another one now that Fofana's going to miss best part of the season?
No, because we've got, you said it earlier, I think Bashir Humphries is capable of filling in. I think that from what we saw when he played away against Man City, I know we got battered in that game.
He was good in that game, though.
He was one of our best players. He's really good at passing the ball out from the back. He's got a good energy, and he's composed. And when you're a centre back, you need to just keep your head right. The pressure's always on in the Prem. The ball's moving fast, and you have to just be ahead of it. And I think he's certainly capable of that. And he's got a manager who can develop him, and he's working around experienced centre backs as well. Thiago Silva's obviously not at the top of his game, but look, you're going to take whatever you can from a player like that, regardless. And obviously, I think he was training with us last season anyway. So maybe that's those performances that we did see was because of players like Silva. So he needs to be given more of a chance. Obviously, he's not a starting player, but yeah, I don't see any reason to sign a centre back. I don't think that's urgent. You said it yourself, right? We do have 5. And he's versatile. He doesn't have to play as a centre back. He can play in other positions as well. But yeah, I don't know, man.
It's tricky, isn't it? I mean, like looking at the options we've got right now. Obviously, Badia Shield not quite fit yet. I doubt he's going to play the first game, because even if he's fit, he's not going to have played any matches at all. So I doubt he gets chucked straight in against Liverpool.
No,
I would imagine, mate, for the start of the season, certainly for the first couple of games, first 2 to 3 games, that the partnership will probably be Thiago Silva and Levi Colwill.
That would be nice. I wouldn't mind Badia Shield rotating a little bit with Colwill as well, because I do think he deserves the minutes based on what we saw last season. It'd be good for them to have some healthy competition, but also you've got to remember Thiago Silva's going to need a rest. I don't see anything wrong with playing 2 left-sided players.
How much do you think Silva's going to play this season, by the way? Because I've spoken to a lot of fans about this, like on streams in the chat and just people in general. I think he's going to play quite a lot, but other people think that he might not play as much as he has done in the previous seasons, where he's pretty much played every game. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Poch manages him, because I feel that this season, I know we've probably thought it for a couple of seasons, but this season, surely he's going to be 39. This is probably going to be his last season at Chelsea, you would think. So is there part of the thinking maybe that Poch perhaps doesn't play him as much, gives more minutes to some of the other defenders that are going to be here for years and years to come to kind of help bed them in? I mean, how do you see that? Do you think Silva will just play most weeks, or can you see Poch maybe phasing him out?
Well, I think he's been the starter, so I don't see why that changes straight off the back.
No,
I think in games like Liverpool at home on the opening day, there's a lot of pressure, and you want players who know how to deal with that pressure. He's going to be fresh, just coming off of a pre-season. Very tactically astute. There's no reason why he shouldn't be starting those big games, but I don't see anything wrong with starting other centre backs in front of him either. I think as long as you got Silva in the squad, it was a bit like Azpilicueta for me. You've got a character in the dressing room and someone for the younger players to look up to. So when people were criticising Dave for signing this new contract last season, I don't think that's a bad thing, because the younger players need to look up to someone. So I would say even if you could keep Silva longer than this season, I would still do it regardless of him getting minutes or not. But luckily, we're in a situation where we know he can do that, and he has done that. I mean, he plays ridiculous amounts of football for someone who's 38, 39. I mean, it's just unheard of. John Terry at this point, let's just use that as an example.
Oh, God.
He was retired. He was gone. And before that, he was playing in the Championship, mate. So, this is a guy still at the pinnacle of his game.
Yeah, at the top level, phenomenal.
100%. And if we were playing Champions League football, Silva would be right in there. And I'm sure, don't get me wrong, I'm sure we'd probably rotate. We'd be having a completely different discussion, Charlie.
Yeah.
And that fifth centre back, maybe I'd change my mind just based on that. But, you know, for the situation we're in this season, we've got a decent squad. It just needs to be refined. Ideally, I would like a better goalkeeper, but Kepa's going to get us into top 4. He's done it before. I see no reason why he can't do it
And
again.
also, he wasn't the problem last season. Like, I have a lot of disagreements with people, like in terms of people make it out like Kepa's a Sunday League goalkeeper. Like, I'm fully aware that we need to do better to win the Premier League, to win the big trophies. We need a better goalkeeper, absolutely. But for this point in time, where we're at, trying to get back into Champions League football, Kepa and the defence weren't the reason we were shit last season. So I don't understand why he comes in for so much criticism. Look, yes, he's not the best, and we can absolutely do better and must do better. But for another season, it's not a disaster.
No, it's not a disaster, but it's, you know, if you see Onana go on to do really well, and maybe there was a chance of getting a goalkeeper like that, then you know you could change your opinion because Onana is levels better than Kepa.
Yeah, sure.
But it's about the market, isn't it? The market dictates, you know, who you're going to buy and who you can buy, and ultimately there's barely anyone on the market that's good enough. And even if we wanted to get rid of Kepa and maybe try a different approach, we're not able to do that. His wages are too high. But you've got to give Kepa credit. If you're not going to give it for what he does on the pitch, you have to say off the pitch he's been very good, always professional. You know, he doesn't cause the manager issues. When he was a number 2, he was a good number 2. And you know, I think there's a lot of use for Kepa in penalty shootouts, and you know, the guy's not got the best distribution, but I think he's certainly capable of playing the ball out from the back. It would be helpful if we had a better team in front of him to minimize the amount of shots that we have to deal with, because I think ultimately if there's 10 shots, Kepa usually concedes 1.
Yeah.
He's not the kind of goalkeeper that you could guarantee is going to save that kind of shot that you would expect most goalkeepers to save. But he has his games where he's just unbelievable. I remember Aston Villa away, we went there, man of the match, 100%. He was fantastic.
Mate, he was phenomenal in that game.
You know, people give Mason Mount credit because he scored the 2 goals, but yeah, that's true. You know,
Kepa was the reason we won that game.
100%.
We were getting battered.
There are games where he's made an impact, but then you look at games like Man City at home, and you say Kepa cost us that game. You know, we could have easily
put it away as well.
And it's fine margins.
Yeah, for sure.
These are the things that make a big difference, is the small things. But look, 1 year with Kepa, so be it. I'm not really complaining because I don't think there's actually many better goalkeepers that we can realistically buy at the moment. In terms of the defense, we've touched on that. I'm pretty happy. The midfield, so far, it's looking quite young. If we don't end up signing another player, it's going to still be young, but I don't have a problem with a lot of these players staying in the squad. We already said Santos, I don't think he'll stay, but if he does want to, like, Poch has his reasons. And then on the wing and up front, it's just about refining some goal scoring, man. I'm seeing videos of Mudryk putting in extra work, training his finishing. Like, fair play to you, man. Like, you need to. And I'm not digging him out. All of the players up top need to score.
You've got to have that work ethic as well. Mudryk's got that.
100%. And I think Poch is going to see that and he's going to love it as well. I feel a lot of enthusiasm from Madueke as well.
Yeah.
You know, I really am going to be interested to see that combo. Although we never really saw Mudryk and Madueke play consistently together.
No.
Is that something that we're going to see under Poch?
I hope so, mate. We need to see it. We need to see that. But I don't know, mate. I mean, to round this one out, bro, what are your expectations for the rest of pre-season? Obviously, we've got some more difficult games coming up. Obviously, we're going to start to see the likes of Enzo, Mudryk, Madueke, Colwell, etc., playing minutes. I mean, we've got Newcastle, Brighton, Fulham, and Borussia Dortmund as well, still to come.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for the rest of this pre-season tour? What would you like to see? What would constitute a successful pre-season for you?
Well, ultimately, you look at the results, don't you? But I don't think that's what Poch is just going to be looking at. I think even if we drew a game or lost a game, if he can see that we're playing the right way, then that's a step in the right direction. And we had a crap preseason last year. So look, we need to improve on that and get some stability because it was carnage. These players need to be made as comfortable to feel as comfortable as they can, because ultimately it's such a young squad. But I think they've got the perfect manager for it. Poch isn't the kind of manager who's gonna, sit there and shout at you and freeze you out of a squad like Mourinho. I also don't think that he's the kind of manager who, demands more from the ownership, in terms of bringing in ready-made players, not wanting to develop players as much like a Guardiola. So I think he's kind of in the middle. You can see it if you saw his bench cam from the game the other day.
Yeah.
He doesn't take any shit. He wants the players to run. He'll tell them if they're not doing the right thing. But, he's a normal bloke. He's a nice guy, who wants the best for his players. And he's going to put the arm around a lot of these players' shoulders. And ultimately, I think he'll help them understand what it is that they can improve and why they are or are not starting in games, because that seems to be one of the main reasons that we didn't do well, because Frank Lampard was talking about it on the podcast, The Diary of a CEO. When you've got 18 players in the squad who aren't involved, like, that's just not going to build a good dressing room, full stop. Like, you could literally have a squad of 18 players, and we had 18 players that weren't in the squad. I mean, that's mad.
Yeah,
So,
it's ridiculous. You sort of wonder. Obviously, we're not saying we should have done this badly, but you can quite easily see how it was so difficult to motivate these players or get anything out of them, because the circumstances and the environment and what you've been given with to try and work with was a fucking shambles.
Yeah, man. No, not good at all. But yeah, really, really happy with Poch. He says the right things. So far, he's doing the right things. And ultimately, he's putting the players through their paces. What more can we ask for as Chelsea fans? We complained a lot about how long it took to get the manager in the first place, but I think we made the right decision. I wasn't always keen on Poch. I think I would have taken
No, I would agree as well. It wasn't my first choice at the start.
Who would you have taken?
Mate, I was on the Nagelsmann train right at the beginning. He would have been my choice. But, as the candidates whittled down and stuff, Poch grew more and more appealing, and I'm fully on board with it. But right at the start, I'm not going to sit here and say that I was fully on board with it from day one, because I wasn't. For me, it would have been Nagelsmann from day one. But I'm glad we've got Poch, and I think he'll be really, really good for us.
Yeah, man. I think that's probably a good way to round out, to be fair.
Bro. I think it'll be good for us. I'm excited to see how the rest of the games go. A bit of a grudge match against Brighton coming up next. It'd be nice to beat them and then take Caicedo back on our bus with us, but that probably is not going to happen. But yeah, guys, seems like a good point to round this episode out. Alex, thanks so much for your time, bro. Greatly appreciated. Guys, make sure you smash the likes. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. And most importantly as well, people, make sure you subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV if you haven't done so already. That's it for today's episode. We'll catch you again in another episode soon. Take care and up the Chelsea.